Okay, welcome folks, welcome to the last part of these videos, where so far we've modeled a basic table in Maya, exported it, put it into 3D Coat, and we've then exported that OBJ, well I have anyway, into Sculptris, although you can continue to work in 3D Coat, not a problem. And then brought it back into 3D Coat after doing a bit of sculpting. We've retopologized it, and now we're ready to paint. And as you'll see here, as they used to say in the cookery programs, here's one I prepared earlier. So I've got the finished article, the finished table, so it's got a texture on it, and I've also just put like a sort of cracked kind of varnish layer on there as well. So, and of course, you know, I could keep going with this, I could add more kind of damage to it. There's a whole multitude of things I can do, but I'm going to leave it as is, and so I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to take it all back, and I'm going to show you how I got here and how you can get here too. So without further ado, let's do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these layers back when it lets me. Take that away, and take that away. There we go. So I'm going to sort of take it back to where we were before, yeah, which is here. So how do we go about it? Right, so what the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to kind of sort out your own texture. Now for this it's going to be wood, and depending on what kind of style you're going for, I mean this is quite stylized, so it's a little bit cartoony. If you're going for something a little bit more realistic, then of course you'll need to kind of like get some texture to put in there that you can sort of tessellate on here. Now for this, and because of the nature of the project that that my students are doing at the moment, it's going to be sort of a little bit sort of cartoony, a little bit sort of stylized. So if I just go through to Photoshop here, you'll see here's again one that I prepared earlier. So it's a kind of like stylized kind of wood effect. You can see there. Now again, I mean you could spend a bit of time doing this. I've just kind of put it together, but it's I've taken like one section, so I've taken like a texture there and I've sort of tessellated it, so I've copied it and I've worked into it, and don't know, but you know it's entirely up to you how you how you sort of do this. What I've done is you can save this out as a target. I've just saved it out as a JPEG for now. For making the necessary adjustments, you'll need a color copy and also a grayscale black and white copy as well to put into your smart material. So whatever you do, you'll need color and black and white. Try and make it square, not rectangular. Save those out. So I've already saved these out onto my desktop. It's good if you can make a folder. That's always good. And then what you'll do is when it comes to applying it to your model, you'll need to go over to here. So we'll come to the layer section in a minute, but it's the smart materials that you need to have selected in 3D Coat. I mentioned before in the previous video, 3D Coat is available for trial version. Also it's available for students as well, so if you're a student watching this, you should be able to get it through your college or university. but I think it's a 30-day trial on this. Now, barring this approach, there are other things you can use. You can use Photoshop, so you could export, you know, your UV maps and do it in Photoshop and do it that way. You can create your normals and your ambient occlusion either through Photoshop, or there are many you know, online bits of software where you can create normals and ambient occlusion maps and all that kind of stuff online. Yeah, so you don't need me to kind of go into that, but so there are ways and means if you can't get hold of 3D Coat. So yeah, so it's the smart materials that we'll be going into, and we'll be using or adapting one of the existing smart materials on here, and that will be the wood effect, when I can find it. So it's going to be this here, wood red. So that's what we'll be affecting. Now down below, one of the reasons why I like 3D Coat is, unlike ZBrush, which is a nightmare of a sort of UI, this is relatively simple. You know, once you kind of know roughly kind of what things do, it's very much like Photoshop. So so everything kind of makes sense. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Intuitive. Whereas, you know, you got something like ZBrush, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like some kind of like alien control panel. I just you know, I use it. It's brilliant for, you know, character creation and things like that, but it's not particularly friendly. So what we've got here is we've got layers, right? So down below here, we've got a multitude of different layers we can put on there, and like Photoshop, you can add new layers, you can dump layers, you can duplicate, you can shift them up and down, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, but for what we're going to do here is I've already got a layer, but I'm going to create another layer. Yeah, I'm going to call this wood effect. Call it wood effect 2. Okay. And like I say, I'm going to adapt this smart material. So I'm just going to click on it. Now you can see here, if I just bring this along and click on this little pin symbol here, you'll see in this little preview window it'll sort of show you what your model is going to look like, and it's pretty cool. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can do as well to kind of adjust this. But I'm going to use this, I'm going to adapt this for my own purposes, and you can do the same. And I'm going to do this by right clicking, and I'm going to go to duplicate, and on this duplicate I'm then going to go to Smart Material Editor. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it I don't know, table wood. Okay. Click OK, and because I wanted to kind of keep the bits where you've kind of got this bulge on there, I want to be able to sort of keep that and use that. It's got a few things on here, so it's got the wood patterns. It kind of gives you a little readout, and you've got lighter elements there as well. Now we could do that, you could play around with that, and certainly you can. I'm not. I just want to kind of try and keep this video as briefly as possible. And you can see here they are Targa files, whereas we're going to be doing sort of JPEGs. Targa files generally are better for game engines. Just it's in turn, I think it's a lot less taxing. The information's a lot less, whereas JPEGs I think they're quite large. So, but again, just for these purposes, we're going to use JPEGs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. I'm going to put my texture in there, like so. I'm going to open that. I'm going to leave that purling noise as it is. Basically, it tells you what it does. So, you know, click on to select texture. That allows to scatter edge of the condition area. So again, I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to put the same texture in for the other elements there. Okay, and I'm going to put the grayscale one in there as well for that area. Alright, so I've got a few things going on here. First of all, it's gloss. I don't want it to be gloss, and also the alignment's all off. So this is what you'll find when you go into this, is if I just hold down Alt and just zoom in a little bit, see, that's not going to work for me. It's interesting, but it's not the effect that I'm going for. So how do we remedy this? Well, I'm going to click Save. So you'll see this little preview options box here, and we've got rotate option here, move, and also we've got zoom to kind of scale. And we've also got this one here, and I've forgotten the name of it, but anyway, it's just under the move tool. So what we're going to do is we need to kind of align this. So first of all, I'm going to look to rotate this. So literally you click and hold and you drag around. So I want the grain to be going in a certain way. So that's number one. Okay, like so. So that's looking better. I might just put it at a slight angle. And then you can move it around, of course, depending on what you're kind of going for. And this is the next bit, is I want to scale it up. That's what I'm looking for. I want this kind of stylized, you know, the grain's going to be sort of scaled, and that's looking a lot better now. I could even just scale it up just a little bit more. I mean, this again, this just depends on what you're going for. Yeah, but that's not looking too bad at the moment. And again, just have a bit of a sort of play around, see what kind of works. Okay, I mean, that's kind of looking, I'd need to kind of have a bit more of a play with this, but I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go with this for now. And again, it also depends on the quality of the image. So if you're using an image that's pixelated, it will show that up. So you've got to have something that's going to be able to, you know, be able to sort of reduce it or enlarge it, and it's going to sort of have a certain sort of quality. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to kind of go, yeah, something like that. And again, you know, just tweak it, play around with it. Yeah, I think I'll go with that for now. I mean, that's could work. wind up whether to reduce it. I think I'm going to take it back to where it was, I think, before, so get some of that nice grain in there. I think I'm tempted to kind of go with that. Now, okay, so what's the next stage? Well, there's a few things going on. One is that it's glossy, and I don't want it glossy. I want it matte because I want to be able to kind of apply the varnish myself and put it on there. So I'll need to go into the layers and have a look at gloss. You can see there it's at 100%. So I'm going to need to kind of take that down. Yep. So that's looking closer to kind of where I want it. Yeah, I don't really want it glossy. Okay, that's kind of looking alright. And what else? We've got depth going on there. Oops, we've got depth, opacity, roughness. And again, just, you know, have a play with some of this stuff. If you can kind of deepen it, you know, have a play around with the depth on there. So I'm just going to look at that just for contrast. And just see if this is kind of, you know, again, you won't find out anything about the program unless you kind of mess around with it. So that's my advice to you, is just to try some of these things out. And yeah, just sort of experiment with it. I'm just trying to kind of create some more depth there, and I can do that with the emboss power on that, and that's looking quite nice actually. Oops, let's try that again. Let's take it all the way to 5,000. Right, let's stay in there. So that's starting to kind of pop now. Okay. Right. And what else can we have a look around with it? Opacity. Keep the opacity as it is, brightness as it is. No, we don't want any additional glossiness. We don't want any metalness. I think that's, you know, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. I think we could quite possibly go with that. Again, I don't want it like totally matte, but I don't want it glossy because of the varnish. I think I'll leave it there. Depth, da 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 da. Okay, well I think it's that's almost ready to kind of go through to the next stage. So I'm just, again, just having another kind of tweak. I'm just thinking about might just see about increasing. Let's have a look at that, see if I have a play around with that, see what that does. Yeah. I might just take that up to about 300. See what that does. There, just the kind of, just so I don't want to go crazy, but just, you can see that there, it's just got a bit more, you know, it's just increased the bump on it, so it's just got a little bit more kind of texture there. So I think that's yeah, that's starting to kind of look as something like, I think. I'm not quite sure about that edge. I might be tempted just to take it down a bit. So yeah, just forgive me a second. I'm just want to kind of just play around a little bit here and just see. just take that to about 150, see what that does. Actually, I might take that down as well. Let's take that down to about 200. Yeah, I might just take that embossed power down a little bit. It's just a little bit OTT, that. Yeah, I think it's the emboss. I think that was what was going on there. And I'll take that back up to 200. I'll take that back up to 300. Okay. I think we're almost there, folks. We're almost there. I just wanted to have a look at... Just wanted to have a quick look at... It's going to go back into the smart material. And... yeah, that's what I was looking for. Overall cavity modulator. So you can see there, if we just go back and forth, just that kind of like bulge coming through, so you get that really nice weathered, distressed kind of look. You can see that? That's what I was after. Cool. Okay. And playing around with that displacement scale. Okay, I could go with that. I could go with that. Okay. Now, if you do want to... Right, so if you're doing this in the future, or you're doing it as I'm doing this video, the mapping of this can be determined by a number of things. It'll actually either automatically kind of drop it in, or if you wanted to, you can do it from camera. So I click on that there, you can see there, if I just sort of zoom out, you could actually place this, and it's a little bit like if you've ever used a Mudbox. It's got a similar function with the stencils. It kind of operates that way, so you can actually use the brush and draw in that way with the you know, from the get rid of that, with the brush, you know, from this area. Personally, I think, you know, it might be an idea just to kind of keep it simple and use cube mapping instead. It's just you know, a better way. There's only like elements like this where you might have some kind of problems. You can see here on the edge, and again you could probably sort of play around with that a little bit in terms of let's go save on that. You know, again, you know, play around with the rotation of that. And the scale and all that kind of stuff. Because one of the problems you can have is when you're doing stuff like this is if you've got edges like that and it's kind of doing this kind of start, you know, that's great on the top, but on the side it can be a little bit problematic, so you might want to kind of project to the side. So we could maybe have a look at playing around with that shortly. But anyway, suffice to say, I might just take that back to where we were before. that's looking a bit better actually. That's not too bad. Okay, make a decision. I think we're going to go with that. This is quite nice, I think, with the grain going across. It makes sense. And of course, this isn't the end of it. I'm going to show you some other little bits and bobs which are pretty cool. But let's just go with that, just for the sake of argument. Let's just go with that design, or that kind of that rotation. Right, and all you need to do, it's really simple, is you can paint it in if you like. So you could do it this way. You could literally just take one of these alpha brushes and literally just start painting it in like that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's one way. And it will paint it exactly how it kind of previewed it. Like so. Or alternatively, you can use this paint bucket tool and click. Voila. Yeah, easy peasy. And that's pretty cool. Okay, but the story isn't over. Now, we've got a really nice sort of start here, but there's a few other things we can do to really kind of make this ping. And this is, I'm just going to create another layer here. I'm going to call this varnish. And with varnish, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to choose, let's go back up to the top, so something like a gloss. I'll probably adapt one of these things again. Might choose that old school paint, maybe. I can always change the specularity. I'm going to have it on black. Now what I'm looking for is that, but without colour. And what I'm aiming for is a specularity. So if I just paint on there at the moment, that is not what I'm after, right? But we can do a few things. Excuse me. So we can first of all take, well actually no, let's start by changing the roughness. So if I go to additional glossiness, right, so on that layer with that smart material, oops, let's take that back again, it's going to the minus. Alright, so that's at about 100, right? Now that's definitely a good start. That's kind of what I'm after in terms of glossiness, in terms of varnish. However, we've got the issue of there's a colour there, right? So what we do for that is I think I've got this right, so no opacity, take away that opacity so it leaves behind the gloss, okay, which is pretty cool. And what I'm going to do is now I'm just going to sort of brush in parts of this. Let's just do most of it. So you can see there, it's really nice. It's because it's like kind of, it's almost kind of physical. It also brings out the depth of the paint. Right, so that's nice, but it's a little bit, we don't really want it totally gloss, right? So we want it to have the appearance of something that's old, it's been worn perhaps, and it's got a bit more of a life about it. So what we're going to do here is, on that layer, on the varnish layer, we're going to take it away. So I'm going to come to the eraser tool, and I'm going to select this alpha brush here. It's cracked. So if you've ever seen like crackle glaze, if you know anything about DIY, you can actually get a thing called crackle glaze, where you can kind of paint, like say paint a chair, and then you paint the stuff on top, and it makes the kind of paint kind of bubble up and separate. So it creates this sort of distressed effect. Well, we're going to sort of do this with our model. So I've got the eraser tool there. I've got this here. Now, with these brushes, if you want to, you can change the rotation by pressing 9 or 0. So again, 9 and 0 on your keyboard, and that will allow you to change the rotation. But we're going to keep it sort of, say, something like that. And also you can change the strength of this by holding the right mouse button and bringing it up. If you want to change the size of the brush, it's right mouse button and side to side. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to carve into it. Now, as you can see there, now what it's doing is it's revealing the layer underneath, our paint layer, but it's leaving like a sort of, it's almost like it's kind of cutting into the varnish, and it's leaving like a residue. So instead of just sort of cutting it out, it's really clever. It's also allowing a bit of an element of physicality. So it's almost like chunks of varnish that it's leaving. So what we're aiming to do here is, I'm just going to now go along, and so you can imagine, like, if this was like, okay, so you're doing this for a video game, and let's say it's a table for like a tavern or something or other in your game. Again, this is a really good tool for, or even if you're doing it for concept art. Even if it's something where you're just going to do like a sort of static image, and perhaps you want to export it and put it into Photoshop, you can use this. But think about the physicality of things. Think about where's this going to get the most wear. There are going to be parts of this, like let's say for example, people would be sort of sat at this table. Yeah, chances are the varnish is going to get worn in these areas, or in patches, right? But not all over. So this is where you've got to really use your imagination. So you could imagine, I don't know, imagine the dwarfs out of The Hobbit or whatever, sat around, and this is their kind of dinner table. What would that entail? Chances are it'd be sort of quite worn, and there'd be bits of, you can imagine it's been used time and time again. Yeah, so it's been wiped over, it's had beer spilt on it, it's had people cutting into it with with cutlery, carving into it. There'll be dirt in there, there'll be oil in there. Yeah, so all these things are kind of good to think about in terms of what life these objects have had, right? Perhaps you've never really sort of thought about this, or perhaps you have, I don't know, but any kind of objects, any old objects, it's good to kind of even just have a look at those and just think about, any household object you got, something it might be sort of like a family heirloom, or just an old kind of object, and think about the life that that's seen and how it's been worn. Look at metal and how some metals have been sort of worn. It all helps, it all kind of feeds into the look of what you're sort of designing. So you can see here what I'm doing is I'm sort of taking parts of it away, leaving parts of it, taking parts of it away. And going along. So, and also the great things, and if you'll remember from the previous videos, I was saying don't put too much detail into the modeling, because you can do a lot more with with the paint and stuff in 3D Coat. So again, I'm just going to go along here, and it's generally, you can change the size of the brush, you can take parts away. And again, it's entirely up to you what you do with this. Depends what you're kind of going for as well. There's no real method. There are methods, but there's no real what's the word I'm looking for? There are no rules as such in terms of like the effects that you want to do, apart from depending on what kind of thing you wanted to create, what the genre is, then of course it's good to kind of look at reference. And I always say this to all my students, look at reference. This is the feedback that I get from people that I talk to in the games industry, is that students, graduates don't use enough reference. So when they kind of like come to them with the portfolios, they'll have kind of like, whether it's kind of stuff that's been done in ZBrush or concept art or anything, very often they don't have a lot of reference material, so and employers need to kind of see that. So you got that as one thing, and of course the journey doesn't stop there. Once you've kind of like put a bit of varnish on there, you could add other things. So I could add another layer. I could call this grime. So this could be something where let's have a look. Something like let's choose that. So this is just like old school kind of paint, and what I want to do is, when it'll let me, there we go. So I want to start adding some grime. Now that is not what I'm after. What I'm after is, again, it needs to be something like matte. So I might just see if I can take, oh, have we frozen? I think we might have frozen. Okay, don't tell me it's going to crash. Oh, thank goodness, it's not crashed. Right, yeah, I want to take the roughness down. Might go into the, where are we? Take that back up again. Let's have a look. Let's try that again. Take that down. I don't want this to be competing with varnish, you see, so this is going to be sort of grime. Just trying to get. I can see that's kind of like it's taken it down. Let's just see about taking some of it away and see what that does. So another thing I want to do with this is I want to see if we can take the depth down. There we go. I don't want it competing with the varnish. Alright, that's more like it. So this is what I'm doing here is I'm just, again, I mean, you know, how far do you go? But all I'm aiming to do really here is imagine grime. Okay, so you know, you think about, you know, people's hands, and you know, it's not a very nice kind of thing to think about, but you know, oil on the hands and things like that. So you want to be thinking in terms of that's going to pick up on the wood, and you know, you can kind of intimate that. So just add in little kind of features like this. Again, just kind of, it can help to just kind of bring your elements to life, and just so they don't look absolutely perfect. You know, you want it to kind of, you want things to kind of look slightly irregular. You know, whether you're doing models or whether you're doing sort of concept art, you want things to kind of look slightly irregular. Okay, let's have a look here. A bit over here maybe as well. So you get the general idea anyway. It's just oops, it looks like I might have reached this. It does this sometimes with the 3D coat. It kind of reaches a limit, and it starts destructing the model. It's because I've got a few things going on. I'm streaming the video, and I think I've got Photoshop open as well. Anyway, but that's something you can kind of add to that as well. But that's pretty much it, folks. So again, you know, it's whatever you want to make it, but that's essentially, with this series of videos, hopefully it's going to help you taking like a basic model in Maya, importing it into 3D Coat, voxelizing it, exporting it as an OBJ, either you know, put it into sculptures or continue working into it in 3D Coat, and then retopologizing it, and then painting it, and yeah, getting good results. And you could treat all of the assets that you'll be creating this way, if you so wish. So that's it really. Thanks so much for watching. I hope these videos have been helpful for you, and certainly if you've got any questions, by all means, you know, you can drop me a line. Certainly drop me a like, that'll be much appreciated. And if you're a first time viewer, be sure to subscribe. I aim to kind of get at least 1 to 2 videos done per week. That's my kind of aim for this year. So yeah, to get you know, and it varies, so it'll be 3D some weeks, 2D other weeks, or maybe a combination of both. I also talk about generating ideas. If you look at the rest of my videos on my channel, you'll see there I go into everything, like talking about ideas generation, how to kind of plan work, and yeah, and just, you know, my philosophy on creating, you know, characters and environments and things like that. So so that's it really. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. wish you luck with your modelling and with your drawing. And until next time, thanks for watching, folks, and see you soon. Okay, thanks a lot.